Ace Combat isn't just an arcade flight sim. They are war stories that are told in a strange real world. Greetings everyone, I'm Corrupt2969 and I'll be your guide through this franchise I love so dear. With Ace Combat 8 on the horizon, a lot of people are asking the same questions. 1. Where do I start? 2. Do I need to play everything? And 3. What actually matters? First, I should tell you what Ace Combat is. Ace Combat is an arcade-style combat flight sim game series made by the development studio Project Aces, and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment, formerly just Namco. Debuting in 1995 with Air Combat for the Sony PlayStation, the franchise blends high-speed aerial combat with dramatic, war-driven storytelling. Set mostly in the fictional world of Strange Reel, the games follow elite fighter pilots, often silent protagonists, caught in large-scale conflicts between rival nations or factions. While the gameplay focuses on intense dogfights, missile combat, and cinematic missions, the series is equally known for its emotional narratives, exploring themes like the cost of war, nationalism, loyalty, and the human side of conflict. Across different entries, players take on roles such as mercenaries, military aces, or members of special squadrons, often turning the tide of war through skill and ingenuity. In short, Ace Combat combines accessible, adrenaline-fueled flying with surprisingly deep storytelling, making it stand out as more than just a typical flight sim like DCS. So, now that you understand what the game is, now for the first question. Where the hell do I start? Well, with that, there are 3 schools of thought. 1, you can go by release order, which means following the games that as they came out in our time. 2, my personal recommendation, timeline order, which is playing the games that follows the order of events within the Strange Real world, which I will provide you the order and explain which games go where and why. Then the final one. Play whichever one you want. Consequences and lore be damned. I know you're out there, you chaotic pilots, and by golly, I won't judge you. You're having fun. But let me knock out question 2 here before I break down the games. Do I have to play every Ace Combat? The answer is no, you don't. Some games aren't set in the Strange Real world, timeline, and well, some you can't play anymore due to the servers being shut down. I'm looking at you, Ace Combat Infinity. But other than that, no, you don't have to play every game on every console that the franchise released on. Plus, that gets expensive if you're going the physical copy route. Let's just say the second-hand game market isn't too kind to people who want to play the game when money is tight. So, where do we start? Well, for that entry point, for most people, where most people will most likely point you to, is the PS2 title Ace Combat Zero: The Balkan War. But actually in timeline order, that would be technically second, depending on where you believe the story of Air Combat sits. Both games are set in 1995, with 2 vastly different conflicts and pilots. So, for the players saying Cypher is Phoenix, it can't happen. Sorry, theorists! Back on track. The true reason is where to start stems from how comfortable are you playing games where 1, compared to now, is graphically dated, and 2, controls and features are limited. I'm mainly referring to Air Combat here and Ace Combat 2, which are on the PlayStation 1. Sure, some of you out there will say emulation can smooth some of them out and increase the visuals. But that's half right. The higher resolution, yes, but visually, still the same game. With older games, they have their quirks, but that adds to their charm and a unique challenge to the modern gamer. Or even an existing Ace Combat fan. And is even a refreshing change of pace when games were simpler and made with replayability in mind. Moving on, we have Ace Combat 2, and/or Ace Combat 3D, Cross Rumble. Set in 1998, both of these games share in the same general story, but with key differences in the mission style and aircrafts available. I present Exhibit A. So here, it's mainly choice of preference, with the classic PlayStation 1 style and feel, and the 3DS. This is the only form of repetition you'll face if you choose to go with release order of the games, since fundamentally, they are the same game. But if you choose to go with the 3DS title, a unique challenge is to beat most of the game on Ace difficulty in a Warbird, aka the Phoenix the Smurf Challenge, as I like to coin it, where the only exception in that challenge will be the second to last mission, requiring a fast plane to complete it. There's no way around it. I tried. The other differences will be in the music. While Ace Combat 2 will primarily be hard rock themed, the 3DS reboot will include tracks from other Ace Combat titles, most coming from Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere, which we'll get to later. Next up on the docket is our first entry on the PS2, when it was released, Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies, or Distant Thunder in Europe. Set in the year 2004, and on the continent of Eurasia, and this continent doesn't get a break, let me explain. The continent of Eurasia doesn't get a break because it is used frequently in multiple settings. I'm going to be giving you the bare bones explanation, because I don't want this video being over several hours long. But to sum it up, the continent of Eurasia started its inception, was back in Air Combat, Ace Combat 2, where it was officially named, Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere, which I'll explain later on, the game we're currently talking about, Ace Combat 4, the arcade mode in Ace Combat 5, the latest release, which is Ace Combat 7, and the soon-to-be-released Ace Combat 8. That's 7 games where Eurasia is featured heavily. But, moving on to the topic of hand, the story of Ace Combat 4, and I'm mainly referring to the cutscenes here, is told from a young boy's perspective, his accounts of the second major conflict in Eurasia, when the Erusians basically invaded his hometown. His story is depicted through his own narration and photographed vignettes. The reason behind why it's told in this style was due to Ace Combat 3's ambitious gamble. I'll explain that later. But this isn't the only game to feature this style of storytelling. The other one is Ace Combat X, Skies of Deception, for the PSP, which is canon to understand. You can't skip this one, but I'll explain that one later. Moving on down the timeline, we come to Ace Combat 5, The Unsung War, or Squadron Leader in Europe. Set in 2010 and building off the success of Ace Combat 4, we are introduced to the Wingman system, where you can order around certain wingmen, as well as choose their aircraft from the tech tree. And the arcade feature, which continues the story of the main protagonist from Ace Combat 4 in the app named Operation Katina. Ace Combat 5 also has all-in-engine cutscenes, and even a kick-ass trailer and soundtrack. But if I were to play the trailer in this video, it would be muted due to the main song used is Blurry by Puddle of Mud. But Ace Combat 5's main score is more orchestral compared to the others that come later and before. Continuing on down the order of events is the Xbox 360 exclusive Ace Combat 6 Fires of Liberation. Set in 2016, unfortunately I'm going to have to break this gently. For most people, will not have the ability to play this game properly at the time of writing this. Xbox 360 emulation is still an ongoing process, and with Ace Combat 6 being an iffy game to get working, the only real way to play this without issue or weird glitches currently is on official hardware, unless Microsoft plans on adding backwards compatibility for the game in the future, or until the 360 emulator gets some more TLC. I recommend for the budget-minded people to watch the whole game on YouTube or Twitch when someone streams it for now, but player enjoyment will be at your discretion with this one. Oh yes, I completely forgot about the story. The story is basically told through all in-engine cutscenes from varying perspectives. The primary perspective you'll see is from an Aurelian mother fleeing a combat zone and worrying about her daughter, and the other one is from a shot-down pilot from the first mission, recounting the Estovakian accounts. The story is unique to say the least, but I am also trying to explain these games without spoiling anything for anyone in case you haven't played these games. So I'm being vague on purpose, or even sometimes outright skipping this. I'm sorry for not going into it that much. Now to the game we all bloody played to death. Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown. Set in 2019, the most accessible Ace Combat game to date, and heavily modded for some, this game takes the lessons from all the previous games and puts them to the test. Though the wingman system has been removed for a simplified view, and the game is great with the ability of high G maneuvers and post-all maneuvers, though the story has taken a hit with major plot holes, which I'm not going into for the sake of time. The visuals of the game are extraordinary. The effects and the post-launch content keeps you coming back for more. And also, high-octane multiplayer action, though, recommendation, play with friends in a Discord call or a party chat system of some kind for best results, as in-game voice-over IP isn't really a thing yet in Ace Combat. Now, remember that PSP title I mentioned a while back? Yeah, that one comes next. Ace Combat X is set in Strange Reel, 2020, with its iOS counterpart, XI, but unfortunately XI isn't playable anymore, and old iOS emulation isn't really a thing without going through Sketch City, so the prequel will have to be skipped for now. As for the PSP title, the game is great. The Superplane variety is top-notch. And before the soon-to-be-released 8, was the bridge between the other games and Ace Combat 3. Now, onto the defined endpoint of this timeline. Ace Combat 3, Electrosphere. The last of the PlayStation 1 trilogy of games and the most ambitious and trippy that will make you scratch your head more than once, set in the late 2040 on the timeline. Oh boy, the sci-fi MacGuffins run true here. And Where here in the West, we got screwed until a set of devoted fans made a translation patch for the Japanese game called Project Nemo, where we can experience the most detailed, convoluted, multipath story in Ace Combat history. And where the modern systems we enjoy now had their genesis. But for me to explain this story to you, I'll be here for another hour, hour and a half. Another neat little tidbit about Ace Combat 3 is that the animation studio behind all the cutscenes was the same animation studio that did the original Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. So if you're an anime fan, this is the defined, most anime version of Ace Combat you can get because the story is literally told through anime cutscenes. The plane variety is massive as well, and the visuals are top-notch. That little tidbit saying that Ace Combat 4 was the genesis of what we know as Ace Combat, no, that was false. I lied there on purpose. It actually happened in Ace Combat 3 originally, but since it wasn't well received, most people tend to push it towards Ace Combat 4. Now, I bet you some of you are screaming at me saying, well, you didn't talk about anything about Ace Combat 0. I did. I told you they both happened in 1995, and that's where it matters. Basically, if you played the other two PS2 games, you basically know the gameplay style. The only major difference is the Ace style system, which gives you different endings, different cutscenes, and different Ace squadrons to go up against. There, now that's covered, and even though it's out of order, it wasn't really much for me to bring up. Its story basically is a prequel to Ace Combat 5, for all the bullshit that stems from it. And also Belka doing nothing wrong, even though they nuked themselves 7 times. So in closing, to be fair, it really doesn't matter where in the timeline you start your journey in Ace Combat. Every story is self-contained. Sure, there will be references to older games, but that's more fan service to the dedicated fans and won't hamper your experience with the franchise or enjoyment of a singular game in the series. My only ask is that you give the older games a shot and play them. And yes, I left out other Ace Combat games. That's, well, are some people's favorites, but I mainly wanted to focus on Strange Reel, canon, and accessible titles. So I hope you found this helpful, insightful, and if you really enjoyed the video, and you made it this far, give me a like, a follow, share the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.